It's Corso and Catone.
Listen, Mark, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe is not with us today. Mark, he's absent today. He's absent.
Where the hell did he go? It's absent. It's the weekend of the draft. He's absent.
I know. It's, but I'll tell you who's here with us. You're here with us, watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or hey, wherever you podcast. And make sure you give us a call in heated hotline, 855-313-PATS. You know the drill. Give us a call. Leave us a message 24/7. Anything's on the table. God, there's a lot to call about. There's the draft.
There might be a couple of things.
I don't know. Keep it clean. We may not be able to. There was a couple last week, Mark. Joe tells me that.
Yeah, Joe had to. Yeah, he had to cut those out. Couldn't listen to them.
Couldn't play them, but Bruins are on the table. Celtics are on the table. Give us a call, 855-313-7287. Listen, we got a good one today. Obviously, we're going to be talking in Pat's preview, our draft recap, and we're going to hear from one of you in the nation in heated hotline. Crazy game last night with the Bruins, so we're going to be talking B's and C's and breaking all of that down, Mark. But are you, you okay?
Listen.
Have you stabilized? Are you taking your stability pills or whatever it is you got?
I stabilized after Thursday night and Friday night. I stabilized. I stabilized. I did. I'm good. I got my pills, my medication. I'm good because, as Chris will tell you a little bit later, there might have been a couple of inappropriate words said by me about our draft picks, which we're going to get into.
In the 4 or 5 hours we've been on the phone during the draft. I could tell you a few funny things, but let's get to the draft and let's do that Pat's preview right now. So, Mark, and currently they're still going right now as we're recording. They're now into, I believe, the 5th round.
They're in the 5th round, and we don't have any 5th round picks, I don't believe, so we're not missing anything.
I think we got a few 6th and whatever 7th. But anyway, we want to break down day 1 and 2. Want to break down the first 3 picks, and I think there's probably enough to talk about there. And so, listen, Mark, what I want to do is I want to go through each pick. We could talk about what they should have done, break down the players. So let's get right to it because we had a lot to talk about. So in the first round, the Patriots had the 14th pick in the draft. They traded with Pittsburgh down to 17. Pittsburgh moved up. They took the tackle we were talking about. And then the Patriots took Christian Gonzalez, the Oregon corner, 6'1".
He dropped.
About 200. Yeah, he dropped. 6'1", about 200 pounds, runs a 4.3. I had him as my number 1 corner, but most had him or Witherspoon as the number 1 and 2 corners in the draft. Witherspoon went 5th. We expected, most everybody in the country expected Christian Gonzalez to go in the top 8, possibly top 10, right? He dropped to 17. Mark, what do you think of the player?
He's a good player, Chris. Listen, let me just say this about, I'm going to get into the player, but the draft itself, Chris, this draft class is probably a B- draft class as a whole. B-. This was not.
I would say tight end was pretty good this year. But
but I mean as a whole, though, not one position. As a whole, this draft class wasn't that good. It wasn't as good as past years, right? So let's preface it by that to start. So when you say the best corner on the board, yes, in our opinion, he was one of the top 2, probably. However, he's not Sauce Gardner. Let me just throw that out there. Anybody who thinks you just drafted Sauce Gardner, you did not, I repeat, did not draft Sauce Gardner. And I'm saying that for Mr. Corso as well. That's not who we drafted because that word came out of his mouth Thursday night. We didn't draft Sauce. We did it. We did not draft him. So you just mentioned his measurables, Chris. The kid has great measurables. The kid is instinctive. The kid gets to the ball. The kid does a lot of good things, and I'm going to let you break down his technical skills because that's your area of specialty. You're a cornerback guy. But I will say this, and here's my only thing. 2 things I said to Chris Thursday night. First thing I said to Chris when he was drafted, we broke down the draft pick. I said, who did they play? Who did they play that he covered an NFL wide receiver? That was my only critique of him, right? I think he was definitely one of the 2 best corners in the board. My second thing was when he did play NFL receivers, Arizona had a couple. They've now gone into the portal and transferred. In Georgia, they played Georgia. They're going to be 48-3 by Georgia. His stats were 14 targets against him, 11 receptions, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns against NFL talent. Now, I didn't analyze coverages and how they were using them. I didn't get into all of that. I'm just looking at pure numbers, right? So that's my only little bit of reservation about him. Overall, I like the pick, Chris. I did like the pick. I'm not saying I wouldn't have went a different direction, not a different corner, a different position. I would have. But the pick itself, after I've had 48 hours to take my medication, I like the pick. I do like the pick.
So for me, again, I had him as the number 1 corner. And just, he was a transfer out of Colorado. And I think some of the knock on this guy, okay, was that he's not the dog Witherspoon is. He's not that guy that wants to come up and just get nasty and that kind of corner, that old school kind of guy. And I think Mike Tomlin asked him the question, why did you transfer? And he said, basically, I want to follow my coach. I don't think that's the answer they were looking for.
No, but Tomlin wanted to hear you. I wanted to play better competition. That's what Tomlin wanted to hear.
That's what he wanted to hear. Yeah,
but that wasn't my issue. That wasn't my issue with him, Chris. My issue just was like, who did he play to prove that he's that good? That was my only question.
Yeah, and I looked at that game too. I looked at the ASU game, okay, which also looked like it was a terrible game for him. That one's a little more excuse you can make. There was a lot of coverages that. So when you look at that 11 catches, we're not talking one-on-one either. I'm going to call it 11 passes on him, but he was involved in the coverage. I will give you that. No, I didn't say he Sauce Gardner. I said he could become that. Okay, he could become that. No, there was no Sauce Gardner in this draft.
No, he's not. No. I'll disagree with you. He won't become Sauce Gardner. I'll disagree with you. I'll disagree.
We'll see. But this is a guy that has a lot of size, speed, explosiveness. He's as fluid and loose as you can possibly get in all of his movements. And I know a lot of you out there saying, what the hell does any of that even mean? Okay. But when you look at a quarter, you look at the fluidity of him. How does he get back? How does he move lateral? How does he flip to match that release? So basically he can stand a little tougher at the line of scrimmage, jam guys, and still spin and go with them on those go routes. Nobody's going to run by him. Okay. He crowds the vertical route. So when somebody's running down the sidelines, he'll press them right out of bounds, with his ass as they're going down. So now, there's some knocks on him also, just like there is every damn player, okay? He's got to play better in the run game, coming forward, more awareness when it's happening. He's a little late getting forward, and he's a little inconsistent as he gets to the open field for tackling. But again, those to me are nitpicks. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't have done something different, I know you're going to say that. Me, when I looked at the players that were on the board at that point, I looked at the Patriots' need, okay? The positions of need, the big, I call them the money positions, the corner, the tackle, the wide receiver. To me, everything else didn't matter. If you told me that Carter, the defensive tackles, from Ohio, from Alabama and Georgia, I still would have said, no, take this guy or take Smith, the guy, because that's what we needed. So now I grade them out. And look, we didn't even talk about Gonzalez when we broke down corners. We didn't even talk about Witherspoon and Gonzalez because you and I both said, there's no way. And if he's there, the two of us would have been salivating to take him at 17. So I think the player I still think he's the top corner in the draft. And I think he's going to surprise the hell out of you, Mark. But given that, what would you have done? Now, everybody put put some earplugs in just a
So
little bit.
no. So here's my thing, Chris. So I
Well, you
agree
made
with
my
you.
eardrums burst when that
Well,
happened.
because
So
but I'll get into why. But so here's my thing, Chris. I agree with you that those are the three money positions, right? And
that they
but I do
needed.
believe that they needed. It's but well, here's the thing. Chris said position of need. There's an interpretation involved in that position of need because they don't think they need what Chris just mentioned.
Yeah, well, they're
and
wrong.
that came out
Go
from
ahead.
a few people Thursday night said, hey, they were never taking this position that I'm going to mention in a minute. They don't consider it a position of need on their board. It's not on their board. Okay. So, and that position, of course, is wide receiver. They don't consider it a position of need, Chris. You mentioned it. I believe it to be so. They don't believe it to be a position of need. So I would have taken Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. Okay. And he's going to surprise you. I'm going to steal your line. Gonzalez is going to surprise me. Smith is going to surprise you because you don't think he's that good. The kid is explosive. He's good.
Don't stop putting words in my mouth. I never said he wasn't that good. No.
Listen.
Dare
Did I interrupt?
Yeah,
you
but
when
I
you were
have to
speaking
correct you.
about
Go ahead.
Gonzalez? I didn't interrupt you. So he's going to surprise you, Chris, because the kid he put up numbers at the combine that were like top 10 all time in 3-cone drills and different drills. And the kid is transferred that to tape. If you look at tape, the kid transferred it to tape. The kid just didn't play last year because he was injured. He had a toe injury. Then he had his hamstring. The kid didn't play. The kid is a number one receiver. He will be a number one receiver. In fact, DK Metcalf at Seattle will become their number 2 because this kid will force his way into being the number 1 because he's that good. Those guys don't come along in the 3rd and 4th round unless you really get lucky. I would have taken him because I think you could have got a real good corner in the 2nd round. So corner's a position of need. You wouldn't have gotten Gonzalez maybe, but you would have gotten a good corner in the 2nd round. That was but then after I thought about it, Chris, I was okay with the pick because it's not a position of need to the Patriots. It's not on their board. They haven't taken one yet. They've taken how many picks? They haven't taken a receiver. So after I thought about it, Chris, wide receiver was not a position of need on their board, but that's what I would have done. I would have went wide receiver.
Because they're looking at it and they're saying, okay, we spent a 2nd round pick on Thornton. We have to see that through now, which I didn't like that. The 2nd round pick on Thornton, they got Parker on the contract. They got Bourne on the contract. They just bought Juju Smith-Schuster in, so they got room for one more. Let's hope it's Hopkins. But the point is, you're right. To them, it wasn't. But I'll tell you something right now. I would not have been unhappy, which I would have just as happy if they drafted Smith. If it was somebody else, I would have lost my mind. And
I will say this. I had Smith and Jalen Hyatt 1-1A. Believe me, I think Jalen Hyatt is another steal of the draft. He's the steal of the draft that the Giants got him in the 3rd round, and we passed on him later in the draft.
Which they had the chance to get in the 2nd round, and let's get to that pick now. With the 2nd round pick, they draft Keon White. Okay, now this is basically just Dietrich Wise. This is pretty much Dietrich Wise. Better.
Chris, was he 2nd round pick? Yeah, he was the 2nd round pick, not the 3rd round pick.
Keon White,
2nd round pick.
2nd round pick. Now, mostly everybody, all legitimate people breaking down the draft had him ranked about 28, 29 1st round pick. That's how they had this guy rated. Okay, I had him rated early 2nd round. I just didn't think we needed the spot. I didn't think we needed to draft edge. That's why I didn't really consider him. But he's like Dietrich Wise, but he's just better. This guy's 6'5", 285 mark. He runs a 4.4 40. Okay. He's a guy that can be on the field all 3 downs. So he can come off the edge, but he can kick down the line when they go to an odd man front with a 3-man front. He can kick down the line and he can play against the run game too. He's a smart guy, business major. Well, he's gonna be fine on install. He won't have an issue picking up just listen. Did I interrupt you? Do you want to know about the guy or not? I mean, but again,
he's an accountant.
He's gonna be a good pro. The one thing he'll give you that a guy like Judon doesn't give you is on those wheel routes, Judon has a lot of trouble getting to those backs on the wheel routes. He doesn't have enough speed. This guy will. This guy will have enough speed to recover from that and do that. So, again, he's a great player. I know you may have a different take on him. Great size, great athleticism, a motor and a half. The guy just keeps coming and coming and coming. He's got to get better on diagnosing the blocking scheme because that's where he's a little late on getting blocked. But, again, I think he's a hell of a player. I think he's an upgrade from Dietrich Wise, and some of these guys are coming due for contract. So they obviously thought that was more of a need than wide receiver mark. So what do you think of this guy?
He lacks some technical skill, Chris. He's going to get better technically. His what he does technically, as far as some of his moves, his hands, is like so that he struggles with, Chris. He relies on his strength and speed because he's playing at Georgia Tech. Where's he playing? He's not playing against NFL talent. Okay, sorry. Where did they come from? That's going to be my theme today. Where did they come from? Georgia Tech. Okay, wonderful, Georgia Tech.
Well, that's why he wasn't in the top 10.
That's a hell of a football pedigree over there. Let me tell you, hey, what a program that is. Oh, let me tell you. So I think when we say technically, Chris, he needs to improve, right? That's going to be something that's going to take him a little bit of time because he didn't face that type of competition. Before that, he came from Old Dominion, right? So he transfers from Old Dominion. So he hasn't played the level of competition that he's going to face in regards to offensive linemen and the speed and power that an offensive lineman in the NFL have. That's the only thing with him. Was it a good pick? Yeah, I guess it was a good pick based on everything you said.
Who was there?
Based on everything you said, I wouldn't have taken him over Jalen Hyatt.
Well,
Jalen
so
Hyatt
let's have it.
was there.
In a few minutes we have left. Go.
Listen, Hyatt was the most explosive wide receiver in the draft. And you passed on him for a steroid-infused Dietrich Wise. A steroid-infused Dietrich Wise.
We're not saying he's on steroids, just so you know. I'm not
saying he's on steroids. That's not what I'm saying. But instead of taking Jalen Hyatt, Chris, I went bonkers when I saw that pick and Hyatt sitting on the board because you got the little sisters of the poor in the wide receiver room on this team.
So again, for the same reason, they didn't consider a need. They didn't do it. But as far as defensive ends go and what was in this draft, picking him where they did, that was a
Chris,
lot.
You know what?
A ton
I
of value.
Consider that a position of need. But
Chris, I didn't either.
Consider that a position of need.
I didn't either. But
he took him. Why? Because on his little board, by the way, the smallest draft board in the NFL, on his little board, smallest in the NFL, he had him rated in the top 25, maybe, Chris. So he was there, and you got him in your top 30. Oh, he's a value. We got to take him. We don't need that position, but we're going to take him. That's an absolute archaic draft idea.
I agree with you. So in the couple minutes we have left, I would have taken Hyatt too. You and I were on the phone on that. We were both pissed off about it. But for the player himself, he dropped. I mean, this will be a good pro. He will be a good player.
And Hyatt will be a better pro.
Yes. Again, nobody's arguing that with you. God, he wants to fight me. He wants to fight me.
I'm saying for our viewers that Hyatt will be a better pro than this juiced up Dietrich Wise guy.
So and Hyatt went to the Giants. So in the third round they take this Marte Mapu out of Sacramento State, 6'3", 217. I don't have his 40 time mark, but he's basically they considered him a linebacker, but he's basically a box safety. So you took him in the third round, and he's now a box safety along with three others: Phillips, Duggar, Peppers. Some of those guys are coming due contract wise, but
so he's a replacement for them, I
guess. Now, I will say he's a big safety. He can cover guys. He picked off 6 passes. He's really good at reading the quarterback.
Chris, they were talking about him last night as a linebacker.
He's listed as a linebacker, but he's a box safety. Trust me.
Okay.
He's a box safety, and so he could cover he could cover the tight ends. I mean, you know
what I think. You know what I think of this guy. You could have got this guy
quickly.
Chris. You could have got this guy in a 4th or 5th round, in my opinion.
I think
Nobody
so.
was taking him.
He
Nobody
didn't play against anybody. That's my problem with him too.
You definitely would have got this guy in the 4th round, Chris. Absolutely.
You know,
with all your 4th round picks.
So let me tell you who I think you could have had here. We broke down the inside linebackers, the off-ball linebackers. That's a big need. Forget Bentley. Forget Tavi. Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. Okay. 6'2", 235, 4'4", guy could get sideline to sideline. He can cover anybody. He can get coverage. He can fill gaps. He can tackle guys. I'm disgusted they didn't take this guy who was on the board. Pisses me off, Mark.
Oh, did you take your calming medication today?
No,
You're
because
getting
I'm
a little
mad.
excited.
Angry.
Listen, I will say this, and then I know we're going to go to break, Chris. Listen, you know why he didn't take Simpson? He's from Clemson. He won't ever draft a guy from Clemson because the coach of Clemson and Nick Saban don't like each other, hate each other. Will never draft a Clemson guy. And look at the record. He hasn't taken a Clemson guy since Saban and the coach of Clemson got into the feud. Debo Sweeney. Clemson guys don't come here anymore. Won't draft them. Refuses.
Well, it's ridiculous. I'm not saying this guy won't be good, decent, but not like those linebackers. So we'll pay attention to these guys. And Mark, when we come back outside on the other side of the break, I want to talk about where we are now. Not where we are in the conference. We'll get to that. But who is this team right now, and what are they about? And we're going to get to that and more right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. Okay, Mark, we talked about the draft. We talked about some of those guys. Hey, look, next week we'll break down what they did in the 4th round, 6th round, 7th round. We could talk about that.
We'll break all that down next week. Yep.
Well, Mark, who is this team right now? Who are they? What are they?
Who are they? What are they?
Yeah.
They're going to be 5 yards in a cloud of dust. I think you're going to see him go back to some old school Patriot football defense, running the ball, short passing, control passing game with Juju Smith-Schuster and Devontae Parker. You're going to see it's going to be from a different era of football. And I think he thinks he's going to beat teams like Baltimore, Kansas City, and Buffalo 20-17. In his mind, the T-Rex mind he has, because he's turned into T-Rex. I call you T-Rex, he's T-Rex the senior. You're T-Rex junior. He really thinks, I think that's really what he thinks, because he's building a defense that he thinks can win for him 2017. Because you're not going to score with that offense, that pedestrian offense. You're not going to score enough points, Chris. So he thinks that's what his philosophy is. It's a 1990s, early 2000s philosophy that he's still carrying because maybe he doesn't realize number 12 is not there. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I'm just, we keep talking about athletes. I can't approve on.
So he's taking a few on defense though, Chris.
Okay, no, we're talking about the offensive side of the ball.
Okay.
You're talking about the offense, and so am I for a second. I'm not gonna, I don't want to just belabor it. Everything you're saying, I agree with. For some reason, you don't think I agree with taking wideouts and taking offensive players. But I do.
Listen, you were salivating over the cornerback pick in the first round because you're a cornerback guy. But I will say this, Chris,
it's an A+ pick, Mark.
But Chris did agree.
That's 17.
It's not. I don't know if it's an A+ pick. Listen, it's an A pick.
From this draft.
A+ is Sauce Gardner. It's an A pick.
But there was no Sauce Gardner. I
understand that. So there was no A+ pick.
And there also wasn't a Jamar Chase either. So
there wasn't a Jamar Chase. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. There was no Jamar Chase.
How's that?
A-.
I'll
give you that. Listen, I'll give you that. But listen. The thing is this. Well, I lost my train of thought. What was the what were we getting? Oh, offense. The offense.
Well, I was telling you about wide receiver, and then I like wide receivers too, Mark. I want athletes there. I think our room sucks. I think our room stinks.
Chris,
I'm not happy with it. And I don't think Bill O'Brien's the answer to all.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something, Chris. A couple of things. First of all, wide receiver was not on their board. So how is it? So Thornton, let's talk about the wide receiver room. Thornton, you think is a bust, Chris. You told me that like week 8, Chris said to me, no, he was injured. He came back like week 13 or 14. He was on the field. And Chris said, Mark, this kid's a bust. You know that. He's got no footwork. He can't toe tap. He's a one-trick pony. He tries to run by guys. That's all he is. He's a one-trick pony. He got away with it in college. And that was Chris's critique of him. Chris said this was a wasted pick. And I think the kid can give you more than that. I do. However, Chris may be right. And if you're right, so let's talk about the wide receiver room because you didn't draft any. Bourne's a free agent at the end of the year. Parker's a free agent. If Thornton is a bust, you got Juju Smith-Schuster left for next year. Who's in the wide receiver room? You didn't take anybody today. You took no one. Nobody. You didn't, not yet anyways. Maybe you will in the 6th round. You're gonna get a practice squad guy in the 6th round because that's what you're taking. Or you're gonna get undrafted guys. So I don't know. So can you win, Chris, with this roster? What are we now? You said at the beginning of this segment. Can you win with this wide receiver room? That I think is our biggest question. Can you?
Not on a consistent basis. Not their floor dropped. Their floor dropped. Okay. From 7-8 wins down to me 4-5 wins, and the ceiling dropped too, because of the lack of talent on offense. Bill O'Brien's not going to make up that much. I'm sorry.
So Bill O'Brien, Chris, went that. Listen, wait a minute. Wait a minute, 1 second. Bill O'Brien. I know we're going to go to the other side of the ball. Bill O'Brien, Chris, took Alabama's offense backwards in the last 2 years. Backwards. Yeah. The best their offense was when they had Sarkisian and they had the head coach at Mississippi. I forget his Kiffin, Lane Kiffin. Now he went backwards. The local press down there and all of the boosters were ecstatic that he left. Ecstatic that he left. So he's your savior? Okay.
We'll see. Hey, they finally said Mac Jones' name last night.
Yeah, they said Mac Jones. But you didn't get him a weapon.
So they're going to hang him out to dry, Mark. But on the other side of the ball,
they are.
They're going to hang Mac Jones out to dry. It's sad. On the other side, and we're never going to know his potential. We're never going to realize it until he goes somewhere else. So on the other side of the ball, okay. Look, I like what this defense is building. I see Mayo's stamp on it. I really do. I see young Belichick's stamp on it too. I'm seeing more athletes on the field. I love this Christian Gonzalez and putting him on the other side of Jack Jones and kicking now Jonathan Jones inside, which is where he belongs. Okay, that secondary. Mills, yeah, he can play safety. They still need a deep safety. That's the main concern of the secondary for me is that'll be their first round pick next year, safety. No, it better not be. So and that kid from Notre Dame that I said is still available right now. But again, that will be the only question is safety. Hopefully Mills can, bridge that gap a bit and be okay. The defensive front, I think that this kid improved. They improved on the defensive front with this guy they brought in on White, and I think they're going to get to the quarterback like they did last year, and I like their interior. The question mark is the center of the damn field. Now, maybe they're going to try to make this box corner be able to run with players across the field. I don't know, but I still don't see guys that are going to plug gaps and get sideline to sideline. So what are they on defense? Similar to what they were. They're similar to what they were, better on the front, much better in the secondary, much better at corner, okay, than they were before. So I'm encouraged by what the defense is, Mark.
Yeah, the defense is going to be better, right? It is. I think Gonzalez will help. I think, I know you're all excited about this kid they took from Georgia Tech. Excuse me if I don't have the same excitement that you have for the Dietrich Wise, souped up Dietrich Wise pick. I just don't. I just feel so. I just don't think, Chris, you can win a championship building a team the way he's building this team anymore. I just don't think I don't think that's the formula. I've been telling you that for the last couple of years now. And what proves that that's the formula? The fact that in 2019, number 12 couldn't do it. with your formula because the league has changed. And Brady started to see the league changing. And that's why he got frustrated with Belichick, because Belichick wouldn't change as the league changed. And Brady knew that. Brady went to Tampa. They surrounded him with all toys and they won a Super Bowl. Of course they did. But you're right, Chris. The defense got better with Gonzalez. And I guess this kid on the edge, and Mute's coming off an injury, Chris. So who knows if he'll even be a red shirt?
I don't even think he's going to see the field. So because they got 3
you
guys
wasted,
ahead of him anyway.
So
you
continue to waste 3rd round picks that never see the field. How is that possible? Other teams draft guys in the 3rd round; they're immediate contributors.
He didn't make them immediately better. He didn't make them immediately better, but I do think the defensive end did. So we'll track it. We'll
simply they're better.
We'll track it. But that's who we think they are now. And
Yippee!
Right. So Pat's preview was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? SpecialSaucePodcast.com. Hey, when we come back, I want to hear from one of you in the Nation in Heated Hotline right after this.
It's the Special Sauce Podcast. You like the song? The sauce is good.
This will start off as finance. Train them, trust them, and let them lead.
With your host, Marcus Arias.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. Hey, want to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline? I'm going to do that. Mark, you ready? Let's do it right now.
So, and Catone, love. The show, guys. Keep it up. I was hoping to get your take on the Aaron Rodgers trade. I think the Packers did okay in that trade. I think they're dumping a bunch of salary, and they get a fresh start. They get a second, possibly a first rounder. And I think the New York media is going to eat Aaron Rodgers alive. Interested to see what you guys think. Thanks a lot. Corso and Catone, love the show, guys. Keep it up.
We'll hear it again,
I was
Mark.
hoping to get your take on the Aaron Rodgers trade. I think the Packers did okay in that trade. I think they're dumping a bunch of salary, and they get a fresh start. They get a second, possibly a first rounder. And I think the New York media is going to eat Aaron Rodgers alive. Interested to see what you guys think. Thanks a lot.
Joe,
Corso
where the hell are
and
you,
Catone,
Joe?
Love the show, guys.
Joe,
keep it up.
Where are you, Joe?
All right. Listen. Okay, that's that. Hold on. I was doing good right up until that. There's too many controls.
Joe, where the hell are you, Joe?
Okay, but listen, that was Steve. Steve, we appreciate the call. You're talking about. Sorry for the little glitch there, Mark. So, Mark, he's talking about Aaron Rodgers, that move over to the Jets. We knew it was coming, right? Yeah. So the first part of his call talks about, Green Bay a little bit, and did Green Bay make out in the deal? I think they did. What do you make of it? And I'll see if I can fix all this little technical stuff here.
Well, I think Green Bay made out in the deal because they did dump a bunch of salary, and I think it'll help them more next year than this year because now they'll be able to restructure their roster, and I think they'll be able to see where they are with the quarterback position and other positions, skilled positions, and then they could really dip into free agency with some of the money that they're saving on Rodgers now, right? But this is going to be a reset year for them this year. Okay, we got some draft picks. We're going to see where the quarterback is. We're going to see where we are. We'll reset the roster. And then next year, I think you'll see them make a bunch of moves in free agency because they'll have a lot more money. And then you'll see how they do their draft board. In the long haul, I think that Green Bay did the right thing because you were held hostage by his salary, and you really couldn't do anything else with that roster.
He's a jerk. He's always going to be a jerk.
Listen, I was talking strictly football.
Yeah, well, now I'm talking about this. He's a jerk. He's always going to be a jerk. And Green Bay, good job. Good job. You got a lot more than I think you should get for him because to me, again, he's not a winner. Let me say it again. He's not a winner. Belichick can bend over for him all he wants. He could pull. Every time they play, he pulls his pants down for Aaron Rodgers. Fine. But you know what? The bottom line is, yeah, he can make all the throws. He could do this. He could do that. He could do the other thing. But guess what? He can't do. He can't win. And so now you put him with the loser franchise, New York Jets. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want. Are they better than the Patriots on paper right now? Yeah. Okay. That's not the measuring stick. I don't think. Is it for them to bring a guy like this in and give up what you did for him? No. They're good on defense. Are they going to duplicate what they did on defense last year? I don't know. We'll see. Do they have some weapons on offense? Don't talk to me about Lazard. Don't talk to me about Lazard. Everybody's saying, well, they got Lazard now. Well, he can get it done in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Not going to get it done here.
No. But listen. Garrett Wilson.
They put him with the other guy. Yeah.
No, Garrett Wilson, Chris, honestly, Rodgers will make him. He'll put up Devontae Adams numbers now with Rodgers as quarterback. He will, because Garrett Wilson was a good receiver. He just had no quarterback to get him the ball. The rookie
for the first time, Until Aaron Rodgers hears something from the media, the New York media, by the way, this ain't Green Bay, okay?
Yeah,
until he hears something from the media that he doesn't like, okay, and then he's going to go into his shell. He's going to go into his dock room, wherever the hell he goes. And he'll like do what he's doing. Like, just float the ball up, hope for the best. Mark. This team is still 5th, 6th. They're not better than Kansas City. They're not better than Cincinnati. They're not better than Miami. And maybe not even better than Baltimore now with what Baltimore has done. And the Chargers are going to have something to say about it too. Okay? So.
Yep. The Chargers, Chris, aren't doing anything until they get rid of that bozo the clown coach.
Yeah. So I don't look, I'm not sold on the Jets yet. I'm not sold on them winning a Super Bowl, which is the only reason why you bring a guy like this in is to win a Super Bowl. Steve, you're right.
I agree.
Steve, you're right. You're right. They're going to eat him alive. Right.
They're not going to win a Super Bowl. Right now, they've got a honeymoon over there. The New York media, everybody's throwing roses at his feet and they're kissing the ring and all this BS, right? But you're right, Chris. Once the season gets rolling, that New York media is rabid, And you know what I thought was funny, Chris? The typical cocky Aaron Rodgers, right? When he walked into the press conference, they had the trophy, the Lombardi trophy from when Joe Namath won it. And Rodgers says, "Oh, that trophy's looking kind of lonely. We need to add to that." You couldn't add to it in Green Bay. You only got one.
Joe Namath. Really? Joe Namath was on during the draft, and he talked about Aaron Rodgers. He said Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback ever. Aaron Rodgers is better. He goes, I know Tom Brady has more rings, he said, but Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback ever. And Aaron Rodgers, in his press conference, said, I was talking to a friend of mine who made a similar move and was in a place for a long time and had success. He's talking about Tom Brady. I mean, let's face it. Dude, you're not Tom Brady. You're never going to be Tom Brady with your one ring, ever.
And Joe Namath. You remember the Monday Night Football game? He was drunk. I want to kiss you. Let me tell the girl.
Poor Susie too. She's a great journalist too. She had to deal with handled with a lot of class. But Mark, Steve brings up the point about what they're going to be like. But let's kick it over to the Patriots now. So with the Jets, where do the Patriots? We got about 7 minutes. Where are the Patriots now in their division? Where are they in the conference?
Last in the division. They're last. They are last. Yep, they're last. I know you love the defense. They're last. Chris, listen, tell me how they're scoring points. Tell me what. Okay, so I get they got Bill O'Brien. They're going to change schemes. They're going to do some things differently. I get that. And then when you look at the wide receiver room, okay, Devontae Parker, Chris, has never played more than maybe 10 or 11 games in his career. Go look at his career. Every year, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games. He's never played a full season. His entire career. He always shows the flash of, I can be a number 1 receiver. He's never on the field. So now you're left with Thornton, Bourne, and Schuster. Smith-Schuster. How are you winning 10, 11, 12 games with this? I know it's not a need.
They're not going to win 10, 11, and 12 games.
But Mark. I'm just saying, Chris, the franchise.
Even if you put Smith on this team, they're not going to win 10, 11, and 12 games with the competition.
Belichick has deemed wide receiver not an area of need. So you brought in no skilled players. You brought in no tight ends. You brought in nothing. I believe, in my opinion, based on their schedule the Jets schedule, what the Jets have done, what New England has done, that there's a real good possibility New England finish behind the Jets.
Okay. And so in the division, just real quick, because I don't have Buffalo winning this division next season. I have Miami winning this division.
That's fine, but they'll still finish ahead of New England.
No. Listen. Okay. So so look at the conference then. Where does New England rank in the conference?
Well, where do you have them finishing in the division, though, Chris?
Last.
You have them ahead of the Jets? You have them below the Jets, too?
I don't like the Jets. But I still think they're going to be better than. I mean, I'm talking about I don't like the Jets in the conference. I don't like the Jets to win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
I got them as like the 5th, 6th best team in the conference.
I agree with that.
But in the division, that's a different story. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So to me, it's Miami, Buffalo, Jets, New England. And Jets, New England, Jets are not going to eke out. It ain't going to be like 4 games ahead. You know what I mean? So, but I don't think I think Buffalo's regressing. I think they're regressing. They picked up the tight end. I get it, Kincaid, in the draft. So they got better with the tight end. But that's not going to help Allen's accuracy. And teams are starting to figure out how to keep him in the backfield a little bit more. Give me the ranking in the conference quickly.
My ranking in the conference, Chris, is still, I'm going to flip, even though I know they're the defending Super Bowl champions, based on the draft.
Well, you
based
didn't
on
flip.
what
You
they
liked
Listen,
Cincinnati.
based on what they lost on offense and what they've brought in, I put Cincinnati 1, Kansas City 2, Buffalo 3. I put, based on the bringing in Beckham and Zay Flowers, and they picked up your guy Simpson, the linebacker, I'm going to say Baltimore is 4. And then there's a handful of teams you could throw in for possibly 5 teams. And the Jets might be in that mix, but they're no higher than 5. You're right, Chris. But those are my top 4 in that order.
Okay. And I cut out
Cincinnati,
for a second. Go down again.
Cincinnati, Kansas City,
Yeah.
Buffalo, Baltimore. And then there's a 4 or 5 different teams fighting for the 5th spot.
To me, because they were injured on defense last year, a lot of injuries on defense.
Yeah.
I agree with the top 3. Okay. Because they had a lot of injuries on defense and because their quarterback got hurt, I'm putting Miami 4.
Okay. I had them 5th, but I agree. I can go with that.
Yeah. And who did you have 4th?
4, I had Baltimore. So you're saying Baltimore would be 5th.
I have Miami over Baltimore, and the reason why I like what Baltimore did in the draft. I mean, I like the fact that they got the receiver, right? Who was it they picked up again?
They took Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers. So I like Zay Flowers. I like what he does. I like, I don't believe in Odell Beckham. I don't believe in Beckham. I don't believe in the player. So we talked about that a couple weeks ago. They picked him up, the money. I don't believe in Beckham. And neither one of us. And we're not gonna be hypocrites on the show, Mark. Okay.
No.
So you're putting them 4th in the conference, Baltimore. How can you possibly do that? I'm going to call your ass out now. How can you possibly do that with what you said about Lamar Jackson?
Because I think they have a good defense, Chris, and I think they added to the defense. I think that I think they do enough offensively. Listen, I don't have the same view you do of Beckham. I think Beckham will play there, and I think they've got Andrews at tight end, one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. I think they got Rashad Bateman, who is a good receiver, but he was all by himself last year and had no help. So now you've given Bateman Beckham, and you've given him Zay Flowers. They got the running back that used to be at Ohio State, and they got Jackson. I think they got a good offense now, because I'm not saying Jackson can throw the ball all over the field, but they got enough pieces on offense. It's going to be between them and Miami for the 4th spot. Because I told you last night about Miami.
Who the hell's throwing the ball to him on the edge? Who's throwing the ball to Beckham on the edge?
I realize that's going to be a struggle, but I still think they have so many weapons now. They have a lot of weapons on offense now, Chris. I really do. Listen, we got the number 1 receiver in football, in Ty Thornton.
Okay, so all right. So we're back and forth on that. But Miami, Baltimore, fine. Okay, then who? Where do the Patriots?
I think the Jets are fighting for one of the last wild card spots. That's all they are, Chris.
Well, they're 6th. Then you got the Jets 6th.
What are there?
Where
7
are the Patriots?
teams, 7 wild card teams, right? I think the Patriots are going to fight with the Chargers. They're going to fight with Jacksonville. They're going to be in that group of 7. Tennessee, Raiders. Raiders, interesting. We put them in there, obviously, because of the McDaniels connection. Do you think the Raiders did enough to get in the wild card conversation? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did
because
enough.
if Garoppolo stays healthy, because he's a professional quarterback, and he's done nothing when he's on the field. He's done nothing but lead his teams to Super Bowls, NFC Championship games. Right.
Okay. So
Lots
then
of talent,
where the hell?
though.
What's New England, Chris? 10th in the conference?
Yeah. Listen. After those five, to me, it's. And don't forget Cleveland now, because we don't know what Deshaun Watson's going to do. To me, it's the Raiders, it's the Chargers, it's possibly Cleveland.
The Jets are in that mix, right?
The Jets was sixth.
Okay.
To me.
Yeah.
So then you got the Raiders, you got the Chargers, and there we are.
Cleveland, you said?
Cleveland, perhaps, and us. Cleveland, us. That's where we are. And by the way, don't sleep on Jacksonville. Don't sleep on Jacksonville either.
So
where they were a playoff team.
Yeah. So Chris,
that's why I'm telling you our floor has just dropped to like 5 wins to me. We'll be picking in the top 10. Harrison's a possibility. Marvin Harrison's son from Ohio State should be a possibility for us next year, Mark. It should be.
Will not draft him. We'll draft a defensive player. We'll draft an outside. We'll draft a safety, corner, another corner, linebacker. Before we go to break, Chris, what is your number one area in need now based on what we've done this year to construct this roster?
Wide out.
Mine is still wide out. It was wide out before the draft. It's wide out now. It's always wide out. So, because, I'm not T-Rex. So next year, when you do your draft board, even if you got a corner or a defensive end rated higher on the big board, you're taking what in the first round?
Well, I'm doing whatever I have to do to trade up to get Harrison.
But I'm saying your number one.
And then if he's not there,
year,
I'm taking the next number one, and I'm taking the next.
That's what
receiver.
I'm saying.
And if he's not there, I'm taking the next one.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not going to take a guy that should go in the third round and the first round. Obviously,
no. But if
there'll be enough of them.
Talent.
There'll be
next
enough
year's
of them
draft
for the first round.
Is a better wide receiver draft than this year's draft. There'll be enough wide receivers in the first round where that's all you're taking in the first round. I don't give a whatever that you got somebody rated 4th. He's a defensive end and he dropped the 10th, so I'm taking him. No.
Right.
You're taking the wide receiver.
Yeah. So Steve,
that's an old school dumb analysis of a draft board that T-Rex comes up with.
I agree with you. So Steve, listen, we appreciate the call, and just real quick, Mark, I want to just reach out to Steve. He's a contributor of the show. He's probably our most loyal supporter of the show, and I know right now he's going through he and his family are going through some things, some medical things, his wife, and they got a battle coming up. And I just want to let you know, Steve Starr, we're in your camp. We're behind you. You got a lot of people behind you. This show's one of them. Mark, Joe, everybody involved with this show.
You got all our thoughts and prayers are with the family, Chris.
Absolutely. So the theme of this show today is, where do we stand now? Well, here at Corso and Catone, we stand with you. We stand with both of you. You will win whatever fight comes your way. So Heated Hotline was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm, CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk B's and C's, all that and more right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. Hey, crazy game last night with the Bruins. Celtics are through. Let's go B's and C's, Mark. So, Mark, the Celtics are through their series with Atlanta, albeit it should probably never have gone 6 games. We'll get to them in a second. But last night, Mark, the Bruins played Game 6 in Florida against the Panthers. They lose that game 7-5. 7 was the empty net goal. They allowed 6 real goals in this game. They're now at the brink. Florida has now taken them to the brink. Game 7 is tomorrow. Break this thing. Mark, what happened here?
We said, Chris, going into the series, Florida was like a poor man's Carolina, and we felt Carolina played a style that could give the Bruins trouble, and they have. They're playing tough in front of the net. They're moving bodies. They're digging into corners. They're getting good goaltending. They're more physical. They're quicker to the puck. They're winning faceoffs. Everything that we did to get that record, it's like we reversed and are doing the opposite, Chris. But Carolina's doing the things that we thought Carolina could do, the frustrators. Manning up, bodying up, digging corners, banging, pushing in front of the net, getting in front of the net. They're using their physicality to get in spots that we should be in. And it's something we didn't think was going to happen, but it is. And we were afraid that would happen with Carolina. It's happening now.
It is, Mark. I agree with you. And we were concerned. That was our concern going in is the first round. We always talk about the first round in hockey being that round that's could become a problem, right? And we didn't like the matchup. I kind of backpedaled off it and went to the Islanders just because of the goalie, but we really our instinct was to say Florida's really not the team we want because, as you say, they're the poor man's Carolina. And they had they had loads of talent. They just hadn't put it together yet. Let's hope it didn't happen now. And this is always the problem when a team wins the President's Cup, when they win that many games and a historic record. Well, you now get into the playoffs and it's a whole different animal, you know. And I agree with you. Turnovers. Lindholm has been atrocious. And he had an atrocious penalty last night that led to one of the goals. Marchand was bad, but now he had 4 assists last night, so he seemed to. They didn't have a problem scoring. But what's going on in front of that net, Mark? You're 1,000% right. It's ridiculous. They can't move anybody out. They've tried. No. They put Grzelcyk in and out of the lineup. They put Clifton back in. The forwards are not getting down to help on defense to clear people out. They're getting beat to loose pucks in the corner. Bertuzzi doesn't understand his role. He's passing. He's turning pucks over. And Pastrnak, again, loosey-goosey all season long, turning the puck over. And that's fine in the regular season. When you get in the offseason, in the postseason, you got to tighten up your game, man. You got to tighten up your game. Although you see,
this is playoff hockey, Chris, and they haven't. No, that was a great goal, unbelievable goal. I finally got a chance to see it. But Chris, you're right. It's playoff hockey. You got to. It turns up a notch, and the Bruins haven't turned it up a notch, but Florida's turned it up 2 or 3 notches from the regular season.
So again, we'll see what happens. Game 7 tomorrow. We want to hear from you.
Chris, what's your prediction for Game 7? What's your prediction, quickly?
I don't think they're going to win Game 7.
We win it by a goal. We win it. We win it late third period by a goal. Late though, late, making you sweat it out.
Momentum in hockey is a problem.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. And Mark, on the other side, the Celtics. Okay, they've gotten through their series, by kind of the skin of their teeth. I don't, not really the skin. They sleptwalked through a couple of these games. It should have been a sweep. I thought they would lose Game 3 because they lose focus. That's exactly what happened. But neither one of us thought they would blow a 12-point lead at home.
No,
at home in Game 5. So we got to talk about 76ers. But what happened?
Couple of things, Chris. I think they lost focus because I think I think they lost focus, and we thought that could happen, and it did, right? But one thing I will say this, Chris, is they did what the Bruins couldn't do. They fought through the fact that this is a series they were supposed to win. They still won it in 6. They won it on the road. They didn't go Game 7. 2 quick takes. Tatum finally seems to be taking, at least publicly, more of a leadership role in this. My guys, I won't ask my guys. He said in the other press conference the other day that things I wouldn't do, and I got to lead them. And if he wants to take on that role, Chris, long haul for the rest of the playoffs, that's a good thing. B, what I told you about Marcus Smart, you're going to need Marcus Smart in the playoffs, and he came up big in that Game 6. Marcus Smart, I realize the other guards are good, but Marcus Smart is the guy that stirs the drink for this team.
If not for Derek White.
Yeah.
If not for Derek Wright and Robert Williams, they don't win this series.
No. I get that, Chris, but they wouldn't have won it without Smart either.
No. I agree, but those two guys.
Oh yeah.
Have been
because we talked about the center. We talked about Robert Williams is the key to win a championship for this team.
Well, and he's going to have to be because now coming into the next series, you got Philadelphia. It starts on Monday. They won. They're 3-1 against them in the season. They won 3. They lost the last one by 2 points. Most of the games have been. There was a 9-point. Most of them have been that kind of 7 to 10 point, 7 and 9 point kind of win. A couple of them short games, tight games. Do you believe in the Sixers?
No, we're going to beat the Sixers pretty handily, Chris. It might be 5 or 6 games. We'll beat them. I'm not impressed with Philly. I think they got a couple of guys. They're overrated. They're not that good. I'll tell you who I'm concerned about. I know what you called it before the playoffs started. The New York Knicks. That's going to be the series. The New York Knicks. That'll be the series. I'm not concerned with Philadelphia, Chris. Chris, I'm not impressed with Philly. We'll beat them. We'll roll back.
Because Embiid has an issue. Embiid's got this knee issue. He's probably not going to play game 1.
Yeah.
So Robert Williams is going to be a key in this series. I just think the guards are too much for their points. I think Harden's going to disappear in this series. I agree with you. I'll still call it 5 because they fall asleep. But Mazzulla, Mark, really quick, talk to me about Mazzulla. How has his performance been?
We didn't know if that would come up, Chris, in this series because it was Atlanta, but it did come up in that game 5, Chris, when the lead shrunk, and he's not calling a timeout. He's not doing it. He's not changing pace. He's not doing anything. So Mazzulla did come up a little bit in that series, Chris. It's going to be interesting to watch him as we get further and further along. Will his coaching become an issue? Will he have to be a tactician on the bench for them to win it? It came up in that game 5.
It did. I mean, you're up 12 you're up 12-13 with 8 minutes left. You start to and Milwaukee's coach fell for this too. You start to see them coming back. You start to see Young get hot, throwing the shots up. And by the way, they ended the game with a timeout left. So you don't want to call a timeout. Get your defense straight. Figure out what you're going to do. They inbound the ball 60 feet away from the basket. You got Jaylen Brown kind of coming up on. Why aren't you doubling him on the inbound? Put Horford and another guard on him on the inbound, and then go guard Bogdanovich. He's the only guy that can hurt you. Murray was out. What the hell? Why isn't that happening, Mark?
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. It's almost like he just thinks, it's because he's allegedly a player's coach. Let the players do what they do best and let them. Like he's not a tactician, Chris, and maybe he'll learn that. He's young, right? I don't know. He didn't make the moves. He didn't do it. He does, and this has been consistent all year, though, Chris. If you go back and trace it, all year he's done that. He hasn't made the right moves in some of those situations.
So we'll see what happens. You're right. The Knicks scared me. The Knicks scared the crap out of me. And we haven't handled Randall well. We'll get to that when the time comes. But we'll see what happens with 76ers. We want to hear from you. And so Corso and Catone was presented by Studio 42 Designs, studio42designs.com. Listen, get on, watch, listen to all our shows. They're all up for you to watch and listen. And make sure you subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. And come back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk more NBA and hopefully be talking Bruins more continuing on in the playoffs round, and not a season wrap up. We're going to bring back Catone's comments, of course, talk a little Major League Baseball and anything else you bring to the table. We will be ready for. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Find Corso and Catone on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Corso and Catone, and catch the chaos at 7 p.m. on Saturday.